Hey guys, back to Pair, bringing you this 10.2 Obliteration Raid Advanced Rotation Guide. We'll see more and more people picking up Obliteration in the raid, specifically when you get the Legendary. It is 100% viable, and I thought I'd make a guide to make sure we cover all the aspects you need to focus on when playing Obliteration. It is deceptively difficult, even though the rotation might seem straightforward at a glance. There are quite a lot of optimization you can do to really increase your damage. So I'm going to go through all those, try and focus on things that I see people not playing that well in logs, so that you can increase the likelihood that your DPS will increase by watching this video. We will cover the core rotation and the finicky bits with that, talk about obliteration windows, talk about definite Cleave, as well as cooldown management. Without further ado though, let's talk about the core rotation. And this is something you've probably already seen before. So we use our runes on Obliterate. This is our main damage dealer. By the way, core rotation is like rotation outside of cooldown. So this is when you don't have anything active, you just do your normal rotation, right? So runes on Obliterate, that has a chance to proc your Rhyme, which you will use on Howling Blast, and then you spend your rune power on Frost Strike. Furthermore, you will be pressing Remorseless Winter on cooldown and Chill Streak on cooldown. And then you have Soul Reaper, which we sometimes pick up. It's a bit of a maybe one. That is used whenever the boss is below 35% health. We also will get procs of Killing Machine here. So that's when you do critical auto attacks. They will proc Killing Machine, which makes your Obliterate do frost damage and guarantee critical strike. And that frost strike damage bit means that those Obliterates will deal significantly more damage. Now, where's the special bits here? Because you might seem like, oh, we just press whatever glows, right? Well, we have some buffs we need to keep up. It's primarily Unleash Frenzy, which stacks off whenever you use a rune power. We should prioritize using Frost Strike whenever that is about to drop. I'll talk about this later as well, how we kind of prioritize stacking it. But in the core rotation, you definitely want to make sure you track that. And if it's about to drop, hit Frost Strike. When it comes to Howling Blast on Rhyme priority, as a general rule, you want to make sure you consume the rhymes before you hit the next Obliterate. If you don't, you risk generating a new rhyme off that new Obliterate, which will overwrite the old rhyme, and you can waste that proc. So you always hit rhyme before you Obliterate. This is also true even if you have a single Killing Machine. Because the thing is that we run Fatal Fixation, which means Killing Machine can stack up twice. So you have quite a lot of flexibility there in your core rotation and like how quickly you use your Killing Machines. So you only have to single stack Killing Machine, use your Howling Blast on the Rhyme proc before you then consume the Killing Machine. If you have 2 stacks of Killing Machine, you should 100% prioritize hitting Obliterate. So you do not over cap on Killing Machine. That is a really bad thing to happen, because Obliterate and Killing Machine interaction is such a big part of how we do damage. Right, outside of that, so as I said, you Frost Strike to keep up Unleash Frenzy, you hit Obliterate most times, Rhyme proc when those come up, and you consume your Killing Machine as much as possible. That's kind of like the gist of it. It's not easy to get that wrong in a sense, right? When it comes to managing your resources here, for the Frost DK, runes are significantly more important than runic power. You will overcap on runic power quite a lot when playing Obliteration, and that's completely fine. It is a much higher priority to make sure you always have 3 runes recharging, so prioritizing Obliterate is much higher priority. You shouldn't go down to 0 runes, but you shouldn't be sitting at 4, 5, 6 runes and then hitting Frost Strike. That is a big no-no. So as a general rule, you will overcap on runic power, that's fine. Just make sure you spend your runes efficiently. Anyway, Remorseless Winter, I say we use that on cooldown, but that has a bit of a gameplay around it, which we need to care about. Because we have 2 talents that interact with Remorseless Winter, which is Gathering Storm and Everfrost. So Gathering Storm, essentially, when you have Remorseless Winter up and you spend a rune, it adds 0.5 seconds to the duration of Remorseless Winter and increases its damage. And that stacks up to 10 times. Now, during Bloodlust, when we have like haste buffs active, we can spend so many runes that we extend Remorseless Winter until the ability becomes available again. Now, here's the optimization. If you press Remorseless Winter when the previous one is active, it refreshes the duration. So it goes back up to like, is it 9 seconds, right? And it keeps the damage stacks. So it essentially means that when you press Remorseless Winter in that instance, your new one will just be insanely powerful. And that's something you're going to aim to do. On a general encounter, with Bloodlust, you want to ideally extend that initial Remorseless Winter 2 more times. So it lasts for like a full minute. That's going to be your goal. That means that you need to track what's the remaining duration of Remorseless Winter and when is my new one available. To be fully optimal, you might end up in situations where your old one has like 4 seconds left in duration and you can press Remorseless Winter again. You want to hold it until there's like 1 second left. So that means that you might use the second Remorseless Winter quite late, but you still want to make sure you use it so that you refresh the gathering storm stacks. Right. Everfrost works in a similar way, but it's a debuff on your enemies that stack up over time. It's far easier to manage because it's a bit. You need to spend a lot of runes to make Gathering Storm happen, but Everfrost, that you just need to press the Remorseless Winter on cooldown. And it's really important to press it on cooldown. That means pressing it in your pillar windows. So just make sure you track that. As soon as it comes up, just press it immediately. We talked about Chill Streak as well. That should also be pressed as much as possible. I assume you have to do tested and things, but just press that even in your pillar windows because you need to make sure you get value out of that button press as much as possible. Right, so that's the core rotation, a couple of optimization bits there. Let's talk about the pillar windows. So with Obliteration, pillar window becomes your main cooldown. When you use it, you have multiple ways of generating or manually generating Killing Machine. And the whole idea is to, press pillar and then generate and consume as many procs of Killing Machine as possible, right? So we'll do this thing called weaving, where we spend every other GCD generating a proc and every other GCD consuming it. And as a priority, we should aim to consume as much as possible, which means that as soon as we get a sack, consume that Killing Machine. I had made an error. I played this incorrectly for a while, where I was a bit greedy and going up to 2 stacks of Killing Machine sometimes. But as a general rule, you shouldn't aim to do that. That just gives you a bit of leeway. As soon as you have a Killing Machine, you should consume it with Obliterate. Now, let's take a look at, so how do you actually generate Killing Machine procs? Well, you have 4 active abilities that does it. We have Howling Blast, Frost Strike, Soul Reaper, and Glacial Advance. Not all of these are always relevant, so Glacial Advance, we don't run that very often in Raid, and Soul Reaper is also kind of like an optional choice. It does simulate better, but not everyone runs it because it's a bit of a hassle to actually use. Now, the idea is to hit your pillar, immediately, I'll talk about this later, generate a pocket Killing Machine. This will generally be either with Howling Blast or Frost Strike. Then you consume that, and you go back to generate one again. And then you consume that, and you go back to generating. That's the vibe. But how does the priority look like? Like, what do we choose when we generate? Well, for the first pillar window, you will initiate it without any Unleashed Frenzy stack. It's going to be right at the start of the encounter. At that point, you want to prioritize using Frost Strike. This is to stack up Unleashed Frenzy so that we kind of get that buff up early and manage to keep it up for the rest of the fight. This means using Frost Strike above Rhyme procs. However, as soon as you have 3 stacks of Unleashed Frenzy, you would only ever prioritize Frost Strike, either if Unleashed Frenzy is about to drop, or you actually do not have a Rhyme proc. Right? I'll talk about Soul Reaper and Glacial Advance later, but that's the kind of vibe. So, as a general rule, early on in the fight, you prioritize Frost Strike. All the other times, you will use Rhyme procs to generate your Killing Machines. Right? Soul Reaper comes into play when the boss is below 35% health. At that point, we want to use that to generate Killing Machine procs, but only if we have sufficient runes for it. It does provide a significant amount of downward pressure on our rune economy. So you only want to use that to generate proc Killing Machine if we are below 35% health on the boss and you have 3 or more runes. So with your healthy on runes, you can use Soul Reaper. Otherwise, you risk using it and starving runes, which is not something what's happening. I have Glacial Advance in there. As I said, it's not very relevant for Raid, but you might pick it up and you're going to have running in Myth Plus. You're going to use that to generate Killing Machines as your kind of rune power spender in AoE. Or, like on a boss fight in Mythic class, you can use that at the start of the encounter to help stack up race rise stacks, because it adds race rise. So, you know, those initial frost strikes I talked about earlier, those will be Glacial Advances if you're Mythic class and you're hitting a boss there. Alright, so that's the vibe. We'll have the priority. As a general rule, Frost Strike on your first window early, and then there's going to be Rhyme procs as a priority. But you're going to use Frost Strike loads as well, because you don't always have a Rhyme proc to generate them. Right, now let's talk about macros here that goes into this, because it does matter quite a lot that you initiate this window properly. When you hit your pillar, you want to immediately generate a proc of Killing Machine on. Any delay there is a complete waste, because it's really tight. As in, if you delay like that first GCD by half a second, you lose quite a significant percentage of the, you know, but theoretically potential generations of Killing Machine, and that's going to have a big impact on your DPS. So we have a set of macros that we use to initiate the pillar window correctly, and I got them up here, right? So essentially, as I said before, we have a list of abilities you can generate Killing Machines, and every one of those abilities have an associated macro right here that we press to enter our pillar window appropriately, right? So you have one with pillar into Howling Blast, one with pillar into Frost Strike, one with pillar into Soul Reaper, and one with pillar into Glacial Advance. You can also have a final one, which is pillar into Obliterate. I'll deal with that later, but yeah. We don't have many keybinds, so you should definitely try and put these out and use them. The idea is wait for an open GCD. It's very important that you have your GCD ready. If GCD isn't ready, it's going to hit a pillar, and then you're going to wait until the GCD finishes, and then it's going to generate that first Killing Machine. That delay is also a bad thing. So you wait until the GCD is ready, you then pass that macro, that's going to hit pillar and immediately generate a proper Killing Machine. To give some insight into like why this matter, if you tap, so if you do pillar and then you tap and the ability, you can do that quite quickly, because you can, like, you know, time your fingers appropriately. That generally introduces at least 100, 200, 300 milliseconds. And that's going to be between like 2 to 4% DPS downgrade. Just doing that, right? That's how much it matters. And how much of downgrade depends on how much haste you have. We have haste breakpoint points associated with the pillar windows, where you essentially get, or it's the difference between getting an extra DCD in it and not getting one. So a classic one is around 25% health. Without any haste buffs, you will get exactly 10 GCDs in your pillar window. Well, if you delay that initial GCD by 200 milliseconds, you're going to need like 2 to 3% more haste to get in that final GCD. So if you're sitting there and simulations say that, oh, your haste is great, and you're not doing the pillar macros, you're going to lose a lot of damage, right? The 25% breakpoint is something we generally aim for. We generally go a bit higher, because there's another one, which is, I think 25.3%-ish, which is when you have Bloodlust and Power Weapon active. But yeah, trust the simulations, but make sure you use the macros, since they are really, really important. Now, the final optimization we're going to talk about here is the final GCD in pillar. So the interesting part here is that if you're on your final GCD and you have the option of either, you're on one stack of Killing Machine, so you have the option of either consume that Killing Machine or generate a new one. The right play is actually to generate a new one. So ideal play is that you magically happen to have one Killing Machine at the end, generate a new one, so you exit the window with 2. That is because generating a progress Killing Machine is really big value, and that's more value than consuming one towards the end of pillar window. We have a lot of buffs and things. That's the play. All right, that's the pillar window. I hope that was approachable. It is by far the most important aspect of playing Obliteration, getting those pillar windows right. Now, let's talk about Cleave. No, sorry. Let's actually talk about the opener. I've got it up here. It depends whether or not you pick up Abomination Limb or not. So if you have Abomination Limb, you should just use that at your first GCD. Use it before Remorseless Winter, so that you don't lose value from Gathering Storm. You can see here that the first pillar window always has a Howling Blast in it. That is true even if you're not running Abomination Limb. That's going to be a naked Howling Blast. So not something we will tend to use, but in the opener, to initiate that window, that is what we want to use, right? Naked Howling Blast. And then we're just gonna, it's gonna be potion, it's gonna be racials, it's gonna be power weapon, all that. So it's pretty simple. It's very much, you know, going to the boss and immediately start doing damage. Let's talk about Cleave in a raiding environment. That is all Definite K, because Definite K makes you obliterate Cleave. How you play around that is that you want to put down Definite K in your pillar window and then just keep going as normal. But the location on that Definite K is very important. It should be, ideally, you should go into pillar with a macro and then make sure you generate 2 stacks of kill machine. That's either going to be like the first one generated and another one, or it's going to be just 2 generators. Then you pop that down Definite K and then you just cleave a lot with your obliterates, yeah. Furthermore, we would generally run double Definite K. In that instance, you want to use the second one right after your pillar window. This is due to lots of buffs kind of carrying it over from pillar. We have like enduring strength and frost help. They last a bit longer on your pillar, so you want to make sure you use the second Definite K right after pillar, so that you manage to leverage those buffs. The final macro, as we talked about, the Obliterate one, that's when you have a quad kill machine and you have pillar ready. You don't want to consume that before you go into pillar. You just want to make sure you hit the macro, so you do pillar into that Obliterate and consume it immediately to be more GCD efficient. Now, final topic, cooldown management. So we touched on Remorseless Winter already. Use that on cooldown, even though it comes up in your pillar window, just press that and try and play around your Gathering Storms. Shield Streak, same thing, just use it on cooldown, even in your pillar windows. A power weapon, save that for pillar windows. Ideally, use it just before, so that we kind of get that haste buff afterwards when we have loads of buffs running, right? And finally, Abomination Limb, just use that on cooldown, but do not use it within pillar windows. So it has to be before or just after. One final note, when it comes to essentially pooling for your pillar windows, it is generally a good idea to dump runing power just before pillar window. This would mean that on average you have more runes available. Don't dump it too much. You still want to have enough runing power to do a frost strike, so you can dump it down to 25, but that's generally a good play to make sure your pillar windows do not you don't end up starving resources in your pillar windows, which is really important, because if you do that, you're going to lose out so much DPS. So one point here with Pillar Frost as well, it is incredibly important that you actually press this on cooldown. Any delay is just going to hamper your DPS so much. Like if you delay it by 5 seconds, that's already a significant portion of like a single Pillar Frost window that's going to just go to waste. Because the effective cooldown is like 30 seconds to 40 seconds, so 5 seconds of that is a big percentage, right? Just make sure you really do focus on pressing this on cooldown. Alright, that's the advanced raid obliteration guide. Potentially a bit more in here that you might have expected. As I said, there are quite a lot of difficulties when it comes to playing obliteration. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought about this video. Upvote downward, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.